Nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema Podcast, the show where we go back to the blockbuster new release wall of our memories, we grab a copy off the shelf, we put it in the VCR, and we see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Hey Justin, we have so much time and so little to do.
Strike that, reverse it. And together we're here to help you navigate all the landmines littered down memory lane. And Mike, I think this movie is the reason we wrote that little phrase, because this one's got a lot of landmines in it.
Oh, yeah.
In hindsight,
sure.
Yeah? So, we always talk about how cool we are because we're Gen X and how we were feral and last generation didn't have trigger warnings, but when you watch a movie like this in your 50s, of course, we're going to be talking about the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971, going way back.
Yeah, this is our oldest movie we've done. What was it?
Yeah,
I guess Texas Chainsaw Massacre was
74, 73.
Yeah.
Yeah, another rated G movie, Mike. This one is Star Trek. This should have been a hard PG-13.
Yeah, this would be a PG-13 nowadays.
If that even existed. So, all right, so why don't we just get into the movie? We can explain to everybody what the hell we're talking about. All right, so this was directed by a guy named Mel Stewart, who is primarily focused on TV. He just did a lot of TV stuff, a lot of cop shows, no real major motion pictures that anybody would notice. It was written by, of course, the source material was written by Roald Dahl, famous British writer, famous for James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mike.
Yeah.
The BFG. Not to be confused with Arsenal's BFG, per Mertesacker, Mike. Big effing German.
Yeah.
If anybody gets that joke, good for you. It had a $3 million budget. It was released in the summer of 1971 on June 30th. Most everybody our age has seen this at one point in their childhood. It was, I think it premiered on American television somewhere around 1974, around Thanksgiving. So it's been in our purview for quite a while, about 40 years now. 50 years, oh my God, Mike. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
50 years.
They were filming this movie when I was born, probably you too.
Yeah. Or a twinkle in our father's eyes, as they like.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so this movie's got a lot to talk about. So let's start with the cast, Mike. So why don't you want to run us through the cast?
It's one of those casts that you would see in a TV show, like a lot of like character actors and whatnot. But
yeah,
the most obvious character is Willy Wonka himself, played by Gene Wilder, who great comedian, actor, man about town kind of guy. He was in the Young Frankenstein that we did before. Probably most known for being in Mel Brooks movies, but this movie, producers, Blazing Saddles.
Yep.
Just fantastic. And teamed up with Richard Pryor for a couple of good movies too. But I can't imagine anybody else be Willy Wonka but him. After you watch this, it's just.
Especially after seeing two people do it since.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get it out of your mind. And he doesn't even appear in the movie until about 42, 43 minutes in.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. He is his movie, but he's barely, just barely in over half of it.
Like the shark in Jaws. Yeah.
The only other recognizable real actor in this movie is Jack Albertson, who plays Grandpa Joe, Charlie Bucket's grandpa, who apparently is bedridden for 20 years, but you'll get to that one. Jack Albertson is one of those character kind of actors. I knew him from the Poseidon Adventure. He plays Shelley Winter's husband.
Yeah,
and he's a good swimmer. Her
not so much at the end.
Yeah, but his most famous role is in you just mentioned Chico and the Man, which was kind of a not a rip off of Sanford and Son, but in the same vein. NBC was looking for another show that would be similar, that had a curmudgeon-y kind of guy in it, and he fit the bill.
Yeah.
And it's one of those movies that you could not show to TV shows you couldn't have on the day just because of the let's say just nature of racism in it. It's him getting along with a Freddie Prinze, that plays a Mexican young man who is Chico in the show, and It's full of all kinds of little goodies. But anyway, that's Jack Albertson. Only other Charlie Bucket is played by a guy who is basically a one timer. Peter Ostrom.
Yeah. No.
It was his only movie that I remember. I don't think it was anything else. There
No, he
was
gave it all up and became a vet.
it was veterinary.
That was
Okay,
it. Yeah. Just
I'm
like
sure
our co-host
Dr.
Dr.
K
K.
would know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other character I want to give a shout out to was Leonard Stone, who plays Violet's dad, Mr. Beauregard, the car salesman from Kansas.
Hi, friend. Sam Beauregard here. Square Deal Sam to you with all of today's great giveaway bargains. The finest values you'll get anywhere in the entire country. Now, this little number right here is a four-door sedan.
He's been in so many shows. He's got one of those faces. Same with Mike TV's mom in this movie.
Yeah.
They had that face. I know he was in several TV shows I saw in the 70s, but
Like if you watch Nick at Night one night, you're going to see those guys 15 times.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the rest of the cast is ably done, but it's a lot of people. You're like, wow, where are they now? Kind of cast, that thing. So that was pretty much. I do want to give a shout out to the author, Roald Dahl. I guess he did some of the screenplay.
Yeah.
And for the movie itself, I guess to make sure that his book was kind of followed a little bit better than some other movies would have followed their by the book, as we've seen recently.
Well, that's how it started. How it's going now is, of course, he's disowned the film since then.
Okay, well,
not very happy with it.
Yeah, he died recently, right? Like a year or two ago.
Yeah, not too long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. He's also a raging anti-Semitic writer. But
Yeah,
he wasn't
yeah.
I just watched a documentary about him like a couple of weeks ago. He's an amazing guy. It was,
Yeah.
he was an RAF pilot. He shot down Germans in World War II. I think he was like not bedridden, but he was forced. He had injuries from like a plane crash that allowed him not to do anything. So he kind of turned to writing and wrote all these glorious books. I mean, I think sold millions of books, like in a 3 million number. And like you kind of listen to some of them, and it's crazy how many books from our childhood that he wrote and then became movies that we saw. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And,
quite a
he was even a spy. He was a spy for Winston Churchill too. It was crazy. But anyway, that's pretty much your cast.
Yeah. But despite all his accomplishments, generally curmudgeonly, rather unpleasant. He, like I said, he not was not a big fan of the film. He kind of left in a haste there because he didn't like the advent of the music in it. He didn't want the music in there to be there at all.
Oh, okay.
Did not like that one bit, to the point where he actually kind of disowned the films. But anyway,
that's amazing.
All that notwithstanding.
Did you read the book? I didn't read the book, so all I know is the movie. Okay.
Yeah. Is
it pretty close to the depiction?
There's some similarities, but there's some significant changes.
I know in the original, like the Oompa Loompas were black pygmies from Africa. They were shipped to them in crates.
To be changed around a little bit.
I'm sure that would have been an issue even in 1971.
They went. They decided to take another group and stereotype them instead.
Yes, make up something from Oompa Loompa Land.
Loompa Land? There's no such place.
In the book, Charlie has a father. I think they made him a fatherless son because they wanted the Willy Wonka guy to be a father figure to him.
Interesting,
things like that. But it's relatively close for that matter. So certainly not enough to disown the film for, but whatever. It's his.
I know you'll get into it, but I'm kind of getting some information for myself here. It was the Willy Wonka character what's he described in the book? Like, did any of his background or his history, or do you know anything about him before?
No,
he shows up in the
mystery.
story?
I guess we'll talk about this a little more as we go.
Yeah.
The mystery was part of the eccentricity, and the mystery was what the biggest pull of the book. No one knew what he was or what he was about. So
yeah.
Again, I'm going off a 30-year memory on this, but
sure, yeah. I mean, it's real. His introduction, the Wilder character is just so menacing. They show this factory that's belching out smoke. There's a knife vendor that shows up and tells Charlie nobody's ever come out of there. It's like, what the heck's going on there? It's like really creepy.
Really designed to freak you out. I guess we'll flush that out too.
Yeah.
So just some other things about the movie. They had a hard time trying to find Oompa Loompas, little people, to play them. You notice one of the Oompa Loompas here is female. um, most of them did not speak English very well.
Ah,
And
sounds
if you
familiar.
look during some of the musical numbers where they sing their morality songs about after each kid's bumped off, a lot of the lip sync with their lips, it does look like they're singing. They had a hard time with the language there.
Yeah.
Oompa Loompas, they were big partiers. They were a big problem on set.
It sounds just like Wizard of Oz with
Yeah,
the
yeah, that was it was
Munchkins.
they were a bit of a hassle. All the kids equally as nasty, especially Mike TV, the actor that played him, Paris something,
Uh,
can't recall. He's a little bastard. He actually I think he actually got into the bees. Remember the prop in
oh
the
yeah,
convention
the
room?
beehive, and yeah.
He let the bees loose and many people got stung. He did that as a joke. So yeah, nice job, Mike TV.
Saw this in a movie once. Guy signed his wife's insurance policy. Then he bumped her off.
Clever.
A lot of the children weren't told the entire script and to help keep some of their
That's
reactions a
cool.
little more genuine.
Yeah.
But this is primarily about when Wilder went on some of his screaming bits there, which we'll talk about here. When he yelled or screamed or did anything menacing, the kids weren't told, so their general reactions could be caught. That scene where they walk into the chocolate room the first time, they had never seen that set. So what you're seeing there is the
Oh,
kids'
yeah, that's
reactions
cool.
to that set. So they didn't trust some of their authenticity with their acting, so they kind of left it up to chance there.
Huh.
The actress who played Veruca Salt
You're always making things difficult.
actually kept her golden ticket in real life. And I think that ticket is actually displayed somewhere called Sweet Pete's Candy Store in Jacksonville, Florida. For anybody interested, you can go in and see the actual movie prop for that.
Hmm.
That's one of the few remaining movie props. There's not a lot that still remain after this movie. The notable exception of Willy Wonka's costume. I think it sold for $74,000 in
Oh wow.
2012. So that would be a pretty cool piece of movie history to have. I don't know who
What
it
about
sold
what about
to,
a
but
gobs? They have a gobstopper somewhere, maybe.
they last forever. You think?
I know.
Yeah. So
Fizz-
yeah,
Fizzy lifting drink.
busy lifting drinks. Oh, what a great idea, right? So me and Mike are going to kind of flush out how actual awful and villainous this movie is to its audience of children. But before we do that, you need to understand some context about the time this was made. So they didn't care about affecting children's well-being back then. So this is 1971. Some other things going on in 1971 on the movie scene here. Of course, this was out. Of course, I think this came out. This was the 23rd biggest movie that year. Not a big hit.
Yeah.
This year was famous for some iconic films, Mike. Billy Jack, one of our favorites. We talked about that a few times. Fiddler on the Roof was huge this year. James Bond, Diamonds Are Forever. That was a big hit. Summer of 42 and The French Connection. Those are all big hits from 1971. We're going so far back that there's not actual box office records here in terms of
Oh
sales
wow.
dollars. Yeah, that's a long time. Don't forget about Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. That also came out. There's 6 S's in Badass. What do you think the marketing pitch was for that, Mike? Well, we got a title, guys. You're gonna love it.
Needed to use a certain amount of characters there.
Imagine the dope that's got to put all those letters on the marquee. It's like, oh man. On television, we were talking about some of these already. You had All in the Family, which kind of set the tone for things like Chico and the Man. There's other similar shows of that ilk. The Flip Wilson Show was a big hit in 1971. Gunsmoke was huge.
Yeah.
Adam 12, Mary Tyler Moore Show, and Mannix with an exclamation point at the end. Again, Nick at Night. On the music scene, Mike, it was really great. I love when we get to talk about 70s music because I know you're a bit of a savant when it comes to that.
Oh,
So
71 was probably the best year for LPs of any
Okay.
year.
All
It's
right,
just the best collection.
let's see if we can put your money where your mouth is, Mike. So the number one songs
That's
that were top.
by the way, that's albums, kids. For you all who don't know, LP stands for long
Yeah, that's
play.
when they would
There
take
you
like
go.
12 songs and put them
Yep.
on like one piece of media, and they didn't
Yep.
feature anybody except the band that wrote them, and they played guitars. Okay,
Back in the day when FM radio actually played a whole album, and the
Yeah.
DJ would just go outside and smoke a doobie, and then come back in and flip it over.
Smoking doobies. Doobie Brothers. I was smoking doobies with my brothers.
A doobie. All right, so Mike, on the pop charts here during the time this movie's released was the song "It's Too Late."
Tapestry, Carole King.
Very good, very good. It Don't Come Easy.
I don't like Ringo Starr.
One of Ringo's best.
Yeah, he was the first Beatle to really like hit it big.
Yeah. Rainy Days and Mondays.
Oh, always get me down. The Carpenters.
There you go. Mr. Big Stuff. This deep cut, Mike.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know that one. That's
By
our
the,
only hit.
By Gene Knight.
Yeah.
I only mentioned this because that song was co-opted into the Oreo Big Stuff campaign. They used that song.
Oh, of course.
Who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? Here's one, Mike. Let's see if you can get this one. When you're hot, you're hot.
Oh, don't even mention his name. But he was in a Scooby-Doo episode, yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Jerry Reed here, gang, of course. And then my favorite here, Mike, is Me and You and a dog named Boo.
Oh.
Name the artist.
Lobo.
Very good. Lobo's still alive. I did not expect to see that. He's 80 years old.
Oh my gosh.
He's I think his last tour
Is he still
2012.
Is he still stealing eggs from the farmers' chickens? There you go. There's a reference.
Oh wow. Okay. Some other things in pop culture that were relevant. This is the year they banned cigarette ads from radio and TV. So
Oh, Joe Camel, no.
really hurt their business. Big Tobacco's not making any money anymore after that. The first Starbucks opened in 1971, Michael. This was in
Pike
Oregon.
Place, Seattle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's only about 33,000 stores now. So movie tickets were $1.50. And
wow.
McDonald's premiered the Quarter Pounder with cheese this year, or the Royale with cheese, as it's known in Europe, as we know. It was a whopping 53 cents, Mike.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I missed my window for the McRib. It's already closed again. So if you want one of those, it's too bad. You have to wait till they reintroduce it again.
It's like Haley's Comet for us.
Yep.
All right, so that was the pop culture scene here. So as we mentioned, there was a lot going on about this movie that at the time seemed pretty standard, pretty normal. But in hindsight, especially through the lens of modern standards and acceptabilities, this was almost a snuff film, Mike.
I know, right?
Yeah,
crazy to think about.
All right, so I think I'm done with my spiel. You ready to get into the movie here, Mike?
Let's see the pure imagination.
All right, let's see what's so fab about it. All right, Mike, hit the button. So we start out with a bunch of kids getting out of school and then making a beeline right to the candy store, Bill's candy shop to be specific. And
how does by the way, financially, how do you think Bill makes any kind of money? I mean,
he's literally giving away the store.
He's just they're drinking all his drinks. He's throwing candy he's just throwing candy literally in their mouths. I mean, it's like, dude, what's your business model here?
Singing and touching them inappropriately for the most part, but he sings his song "The Candyman," and I think Sammy Davis wanted to play the role here, but they thought his fame would be distracting. But
he hated this song too. Like he despised it with a passion. He did not want to record it, but they finally convinced him to do it, and it became his only #1 song.
Well, he was the Candyman. I like the squirting squelchers candy here, Mike. That sounds very appetizing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Or the Slugworth Sizzlers or
the Scrumdiddlyumptious, yeah.
Yeah, and the Fickle Gruber's fudge. That really sounds yummy.
Yes, sounds delicious. Yeah, but the kids go in and just help themselves as much candy as they want, penny candy, and we had this first of many musical numbers here. All I see were germs, dirty little hands opening.
Oh, I know, right? Ugh.
Sharing sodas. Yeah. So they're this lovely little set piece about how important candy is to children. And then we see our sullen hero, Charlie, walking by, delivering the papers.
I'm going to go get the papers,
as he sees his schoolmates having all this debauchery in the candy shop. As you mentioned before, Mike, he's obsessed with Wonka. He walks by the factory and sees the Wonka lights, and he sees just no one's there, and he just sees the smokestack, and horribly scary Tinker comes up and tells this horrible poem, and then explains that no one goes into the shop or ever comes out. And,
no one goes out.
Yeah. Then he walks away with his many sharpened knives.
he was like a reject from Oliver or something.
Yeah.
Like, what is the guy doing here?
All right. So far, kid movie, right?
Yep.
All right. So Charlie makes the beeline home, and he gets paid, and he buys a loaf of bread and shows it off to his family, which is his widowed mother, and there are 4. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
We have his four grandparents that share the same bed, and have been
20
infirm for
years.
20 years, Mike. None of them got out of that bed for 20 years.
It's
So
amazing, huh?
I,
I got questions. You got some questions? I got
I think
questions.
I think I just want to stay vague with that, Mike.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think I want the answers to any of these questions.
It's kids movie. It's
But
fantasy.
what I thought was interesting that Joe met a woman named Josephina and George met
Yes.
Georgina.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that happening? What are the four that all be infirmed together?
I know, right?
But yeah, that's anybody that's seen this movie knows we probably talked too much about this particular part of it. So later that night, Charlie has a discussion with Grandpa Joe, who he's made his favorite, and doesn't mind showing to the other grandparents that Joey is his favorite, by the way, which is weird. But they have a little story about the Wonka factory, and Jack Albertson gives a little more detail about the mystery behind it and how Slugworth, the rival candy maker, was trying to get all his secrets, and
Mm.
Wonka closed the shop down, and then mysteriously 3 years later he opened back up again, and no one knows how the chocolate's getting made. So there you go. So the next day, Charlie's in school making a batch of wart remover with his chemistry
Oh,
teacher.
that teacher is great. I forgot about Turkentine.
Did you notice that teacher was the wizard in Krull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually he was like a I remember him from Benny Hill.
Oh yeah, he's
He's like
standard
a
English
he's like
actor.
a real baldy, he was in a
Yeah.
lot of like sex romp kind of British
Yeah.
stuff.
So
Not that I saw him, but
no, I know what you're talking
no.
about, Mike. But yeah, so they do, of course, they blow up something in chemistry lab, and during the ruckus, there's this big announcement outside that and the world kind of stops because it turns out that Willy Wonka has this new promotion where he's opening up the factory to the public, and he's going to invite 5 children into the factory. All you need to do is buy a bunch of chocolate and hopefully get a golden ticket in one of the chocolate
Mm,
bars, Mike. And
what a promotion.
what
What a
a great
scam.
promotion, right?
What a
And
great
the world just stops and the world goes crazy. And the remaining part of the first act is kind of funny here. It's a combination of introducing the kids that win
Yeah.
the tickets, and they're intercut with these satirical little vignettes about really awful people.
It is. It is. It's great.
And I think it was an intentional thing to put, the whole thing is essentially a morality tale or a fable about, the way you're supposed to act. And I think they're trying to establish what the universe of this movie was about, rich, greedy parents and all that kind of thing, and how these kids have grown up to be brats. But the majority of these things are intercut with interesting little vignettes of what people will do to get their Wonka tickets. So the first one that wins the ticket is our little West German portly lad,
Augustus Gloop.
who's the pride of Dusseldorf, Mike.
Yes, I don't think I've ever heard of that town.
And I love the on the site media reporting that the interviewer was talking
it's
to
the best
Augustus
part.
Gloop, and he hands the microphone to Augustus's dad, and he promptly eats the microphone. They're just gluttons, but they're eating their schnitzels, and their it was really great. We also get introduced here to the other winners. Next one is Veruca Salt from England, who was my favorite Bratty kid. I think she was the best performance by far. Her father owns a nut factory, Mike, and he hired all the
Yes.
girls, all the peanut shellers in their factory. He bought hundreds of thousands of cases and had them unwrapping candy bars to find the tickets. So she kind of cheated there. I love that motivational threat he puts out to the girls is
Extra pound.
yeah, put a jerk into it or you're out on your ears, each one of you.
Yeah.
But one of the workers actually finds a ticket and gives it to Veruca, and now she's in. Then we cut to the USA's component here, guys. So the USA is really represented well here. We get Violet Beauregard, uh, world class gum chewer, Mike, world record gum chewer, and her used car salesman dad. He's great. You also get introduced to Mike TV, who's a little jerk in a cowboy hat that's obsessed with television, and his mom.
Oh yeah. He has one of the best lines in the movie. I don't know if you caught it. The reporter asks him, "You like the killings, don't you, Mike?" And he says, "That's what life is all about."
You like the killings, huh?
What do you think life's all about?
That's my favorite lines.
Yeah, he's a little bastard, like I said.
Yeah.
So 4 of the 5 tickets are gone, and Charlie's getting nervous because he's the good little boy, of course, and he doesn't have any money to buy any chocolate. He got some chocolate for his birthday, and he had one bar, and of course, that was a sad little thing, and so the world's going crazy. And then it's announced that the fifth ticket has been won. Was it a guy in Uruguay, Mike, or Venezuela, or some?
Yes, Uruguay, a casino
Yeah,
owner.
yeah. So the entire world is crestfallen, and then everybody's hopes are dashed. And Charlie's kind of moping around. I guess it's Munich, or
Yeah, some of the scenes they show are
yeah,
like you can see the Munich Cathedral on the back and
yeah,
the gates. It's kind of cool.
yeah. So he finds a shiny dollar coin in a sewer, and he fishes it out. And he goes into the to Bill's candy shop and buys a chocolate bar and promptly wolfs it down. And he said with the change that's remaining, he buys one more chocolate bar. And then it's announced on television that the fifth and final ticket is a fraud, Mike, a
Yes.
forgery.
How could you do that? Could you
And
imagine that?
and this plants a seed of hope into Charlie. And of course, he wanders off into an alley and opens up the chocolate bar, and there it is, like the golden ticket. And that's still a very thrilling thing to see that when he
Yeah.
wins. His mad rush home to tell the family he's interrupted by Mr. Slugworth, as were all the other children at some point. And Slugworth makes an offer to him, which is essentially entrapment, Mike, when you think about it. What kid is going to say no to thousands of dollars, homes for their families?
Yeah.
All the chocolate they could ever need in exchange for he wants an everlasting gobstopper so he can learn the secret recipe for himself for his own company.
Not,
So
not, not- yeah. You would think maybe he just wait till they actually get sold and he could get one in the
yeah,
store.
whatever, but but this presents a existential crisis for Charlie as well as the other children here, but we'll get to that as we go. So at about 44 minutes, Mike, as you mentioned, we get introduced to Wonka. It's October 1st, 10 a.m. Just like it says on the ticket, they're all supposed to show up at the factory, which is conveniently 3 blocks down the road from Charlie's house. So that's cool. But yeah, the kids are there in front of the gates, and
And no, didn't you think it was funny that all the people cheering him on were waving American and
West
German
German
flags?
flags. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the entire world is here for this event, and because no one's seen Wonka ever, and it starts with Gene Wilder coming out of the factory to deathly silence the hushed crowd, and he's limping. He's got a cane, and it's this agonizingly slow walk to the
Yeah.
gates, and as he gets to the right in front of the door, his cane gets stuck into the concrete, and he's got nothing to lean on, and he starts to lurch forward, and he twists that into this like phenomenal little forward roll, and he hops up and springs to life, and everybody goes crazy. Now, that scene is interesting because that Gene Wilder said he only would do the movie if he was allowed to do that entrance that way because he wanted to portray that the kids could never trust him, right? And so you never know what you're going to get with him, and he wanted to do that through
Yeah.
that scene. So I thought that was kind of cool. So they all kind of go inside, and they bring up their coats, and little living hands take them, and it's essentially just the funhouse factory here. But before they go in there, they have to sign this big NDA, right? This big contract is saying that they'll abide by the rules of the tour. And what's interesting is at the bottom of the fine print is so small it can't be read, and they all sign it. Some more reluctantly than others. Their parents are upset about it. What I like here, Mike, is Wonka is immediately dismissive of the parents. He's got
Yeah.
no time to waste with them.
Wait a minute, what's all that small print there at the bottom?
Oh, if you have any problems, dial information. Thank you for calling. I'm a trifle deaf in this ear. Speak a little louder next time.
What kind of rubbish is that?
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
All their
No.
concerns are met on deaf ears. He just completely diminishes them the rest of the movie, which is fantastic.
He usually brushes them aside with like a Shakespeare quote or something.
Yes, yeah, just completely indifferent to them. And then we enter the factory, and the first scene there is the chocolate room, and this is the set piece that everybody really remembers about this movie. Amazing here, Mike, because it's all practical effects. There's no matte paintings. There's no CGI, of course. It was all this fantastically made set that was just, every kid's dream. If you made a world out of candy, what it would look like, and they captured it,
Yeah.
just perfect. And as I mentioned, the kids' reactions are genuine because those actors had never seen that room before until that first take.
Mhm.
There's a couple musical numbers there, and this is where the kids start getting bumped off.
Yeah, this is when it gets a little dark.
It's kind of like a preamble to the movie Seven, where they kind of go through all the deadly sins, and everybody gets kind of bumped off in their own little passive way. But of course, the Augustus Gloop falls into the chocolate river.
He'll be made into marshmallows in 5 seconds.
And then gets pumped away. So that's scary.
I know, Willy Wonka's so like disinterested in like what's going to happen to him. It's like,
yeah, he's completely unfazed
stop
by the peril that these perils are put into. He just doesn't care.
Help. Police. Murder.
Which is, again, could never fly at any point today. Even in the remake, they could not be that harsh about it. But there you go. During this scene, we get introduced to the Oompa Loompas, the little people that work in the mystery workers that work in the factory. And they're also very musical, Mike. They break into song every time a kid gets hurt.
Yes, they're very good at rhyming.
Yeah. So they make up a song how you body shaming Augustus Gloop, and the tour moves on.
What do you get when you guzzle down sweets, Justin?
Eating as much as an elephant eats, Mike.
That's right.
An elephant.
Elephant, man.
Poor little Augustus. Fat shaming. So that scene ends. Everybody's kind of shook up that we've already lost 20% of the party after the first event. The next stop is the Wonkatania, Mike, and we've talked about the scene a couple times, where they get into a boat on the Chocolate River and they go through this tunnel, and suddenly we're at the Fillmore. It's just this psychedelic ride, and they're going fast in the dark, and
What is this, a freak out?
Gene Wilder's giving this soliloquy of this horrible poem and talking about death and destruction and murder and mayhem. And
There's no knowing where we're rowing, or which way the river's flowing. And they're certainly not showing any signs that they are slowing.
Loaded up with this horrible imagery all over the place. We've talked about this before, but
chicken with his head cut off.
Yeah, and the
worms running over people's faces.
Face, and it just it ends very abruptly when they said, "Yeah, that's enough," and he stops. He goes, "You're right," and then he stops, and they stop in front of the inventing room, and this disheveled party gets in. Now, no one dies in the inventing room, Mike, but they might as well have. But the next stop on the tour is he wants to show them all the new equipment. He tells everybody not to touch anything. And we get introduced to like this interesting little equipment that he set up, these machines that make his R&D room, Mike, where he's developing all the new candies.
Yeah, everybody gets in trouble just because they touch or do something they're not supposed to. It's crazy. I mean,
my favorite part of this scene was where Mike TV blows up.
Oh yeah,
because he takes a piece of exploding candy, Mike, for your enemies.
It's tough.
That's exploding candy for your enemies. Great idea, isn't it? Not ready yet, though. Still too weak. Needs more gelignite.
For your enemies.
Great idea.
Not enough dynamite gel in there yet.
Yeah. So Mike eats this exploding candy and his mouth blows up, and he thinks it's really cool. This is the scene where they also introduce the gobstoppers.
Did you say everlasting gobstoppers?
That's right. For children with very little pocket money.
This machine spits out some gobstoppers, and he gives each one of the kids one, and they all kind of look at each other like, "This is the secret. This is the go get.
This is it."
And they agree to keep it secret forever and ever. And as they're leaving, they hit one last machine. This is this thing that produces gum that's a full course meal. And of course, Violet's a world class gum chewer, so she steals a piece of gum and starts chewing it. She turns it into a blueberry, Mike, because that's what happens.
It's an unfortunate side effect. Apparently, they haven't.
They all become blueberries, Mike.
Yeah.
But no bother. They just take her down to the squeezing room. So now we've lost Violet. And the last, the middle of the second act here is just, the kids meeting their end. But before they do that, they take off to the next part of the tour where Charlie and Joe take a little detour and find this little room filled with fizzy lifting drinks, Mike. Another great idea.
Yeah.
The soda pop that you drink it and the gas makes you float away. And I always liked the scene as a kid because it was the burping scene, because I thought burps were funny. But these sodas, and they start flying towards the fan. I think they're going to get chopped to ribbons, and then Grandpa Joe discovers that if he burps, he releases the gas. Mike, some CGI might have been good here because you can literally see the wires and the clothes poking out, like the fabric being stretched where the wires were.
Yeah. This
but yeah,
doesn't quite hold up very well, does
it's a lot more wheeze than I want to hear in a movie too.
it? Wee, Charlie, what?
Yeah, yeah. So they learn their ways and they kind of catch up to the tour. And this is the scene where they meet him in the Golden Goose Room, and that's where we lose Veruca. Uh, they progress on to the TV room. Of course, Mike TV's all about that, where Wonka's working on a material destabilizer because that's what you do
Yeah,
for chocolate. Uh,
apparently.
but he's figured out ways to transport things, and just like
Wonka Vision.
just like Jeff Goldblum did in The Fly, Brundlefly, Mike. So yeah, there you go. So Mike travels by TV. He gets shrunk down and into a little tiny TV guy, and the Oompa Loompas have to stretch him out. And that concludes the tour. And then as they're leaving, Grandpa Joe is kind of confused because Wonka just abruptly says goodbye, thank you, thanks for coming, and then leaves. And Grandpa Joe goes in to talk about what happened, where's the lifetime supply of chocolate. And this is where we get this amazing little turn that no one suspects is coming. And Wonka goes completely off kilter, screaming at Charlie and Uncle Joe that he broke the rules of the contract.
Ipso facto.
Yeah, he found out that he took the fizzy lifting drinks, and the walls have to be washed and sterilized, and he violated the rules, so he gets nothing. So of course Grandpa Joe's furious at this. He says, "Well, you know what? Come on, Charlie. If Slugworth wants that gobstopper, he's going to get one." And Charlie, who's been like this perfect little angel the whole time, decides, you know what? I'm not going to do it. He puts the gobstopper on the table and walks away. And then that act of selflessness and kindness is revealed to be what Wonka was looking for. And he stops Charlie and says, "Charlie, you've won." And he does this amazing thing where he gives him the factory, and he says this was all a test that he hated to put him through, but he wanted to make sure that the company went to the right person. He wanted to. These 5 tickets were candidates to take over the factory, and he wanted to make sure the right one was there. And Charlie, of course, through his selflessness, proved to be the right kid. And he ended up getting the chocolate factory, Mike, and that's the sweetest little thing you've ever heard, right?
Yes.
And he can bring the whole family and Grandpa Joe, and
they can finally get out of bed.
You can finally get out of that bed. So, but yeah, so that's the end of the movie, and there's some really good special effects here where they go on the Wonkavator and fly over
the Wonka
Munich. But that's the end of our movie, guys, and there you go. So what'd you think, Mike? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had I guess we'll get to well, did it win any awards?
Well, let's talk about awards and accolades.
Yeah.
So it had an opening weekend of $526,000. That's an estimate between that original opening weekend and a September 2016 re-release. But the domestic haul was only $572,000 and another $623,000 worldwide. It did get 1 Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Song, but of course that lost to Fiddler on the Roof because that won everything that year in terms of music. Gene Wilder was nominated for a Golden Globe Award, but he lost to Topol in Fiddler on the Roof. Topol, of course, famously known as Dr. Samuel Zarkov.
That's right. For God's sake, strap yourselves down.
Quick!
For God's sake, strap yourselves down, quick!
Topol. It was as we mentioned, it was released on American television in 1974, and then it became legendary at its aftermarket sales. And it was released in American television in 1974. It was a staple on Wonderful World of Disney forever.
Was it?
A lot of kids saw this.
I didn't know that.
Most of us saw this, on some sort of special occasion, usually around Thanksgiving. But this kind of embedded itself into an entire generation, as now has become a staple. It's spawned a musical. There's a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory musical that's been touring for several years. Pretty good, but Broadway's habit of just adapting pop culture stuff now is
I mean, it's like it was already a musical movie. Why would you? It's kind of weird to adapt it to a musical.
Yeah, but that's kind of current state of that. It was remade in 2005, notoriously by Tim Burton.
Hey, he did that Planet of the Apes
Yeah, he
remake too,
remade
right?
that one too. Yeah, he should probably stop remaking things. I saw it, Mike. I don't know if you saw it or not, but the consensus is that it's
I
not.
did not.
It was okay. Depp's performance was an interesting choice, not terrible, but again, all
Yeah,
CGI, all shot very darkly. It spent a lot of unnecessary time about Wonka's origin story for some reason. We'll get
interesting.
to that here in a minute. It's been reimagined just as of this year. Timothy Chalamet is currently starring in Wonka, which is the origin story of Willy Wonka because we all needed that so badly. I have not seen that, Mike. I don't really plan
Yeah,
to
it's
because
unnecessary for me.
unnecessary. Interesting word. Let's go back to that here in a little bit. So, but it's beloved and it's worth it, and it's actually got put into the National Film Registry in 2014. So it's
Oh,
kind of a
good.
big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about our impact to us, the host of Grumpy Nostalgia, Mike? So why don't you talk about the first time you saw this movie, if you can remember, and your observations on your most recent watch?
Yeah, going back to the Timothy Chalamet one that's out now. I think it's probably in a vacuum, it's probably a good movie. People who watch the day that aren't in our generation will watch it and be like, "Wow, this was that's a good story about Willy Wonka." But it is impossible for me to watch a movie like that and not have the image of this 1971 movie in my head. It's locked in there. I don't know if that's true for other people who saw this movie first before the others saw the Tim Burton movie or this current one, but you can't get the iconic role of Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka out of your head once you see it. I mean, it's
No.
so for me. I didn't read the book. All I know is this movie, and it's the way he portrays this guy is incredible. It's like it's a perfect mix of just you got this dark kind of retro. Even when he's singing his like opening song there, pure imagination, and he's almost wistful, and he's almost like you can almost since I've already seen the movie, it's almost like he's wanting not to be there. He's all it's a really weird mix of disdain of what he does and a love for what he does at the same time, and just his reactions to when these kids get bumped off. I saw this movie when, probably when I was 7 or 8, and it was on, like you said, on like a network TV around Christmas, probably. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was so scary. You watch the first little bit of it and they go and see, like it's the money shot of the chocolate river and the candy canes and stuff. And you're like, wow, this is
Yeah.
really cool. But then once the kids start getting knocked off, you're like, wait a minute, did he die? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a throwaway line near the end where, Wonka's like, oh, they're fine. They're all recovered. They're like,
Yeah.
okay. I'm glad they included that as a kid, watching it.
They'll be quite all right. When they leave here, they'll be completely restored to their normal, terrible old selves.
Yeah, but as it's a good point because as it's happening, there's nothing to suggest to the young viewer that these kids don't die.
Yeah. I mean, he mentions that like Veruca Salt and her dad go down into the incinerator.
Yeah,
It's
they get
like,
stuck in a tube to get burned up.
oh my God. It's like, wait, what day is it? And there's just this nonchalant reaction from Wilder as Wonka
There's going to be a lot of garbage today.
that it's just it's
Yeah.
it's it's off-putting as a kid, but as you watch it as an adult, it's it's one of those rare movies we've probably reviewed a couple of them that it's such you get such a different point of view watching as a kid as an adult, and you can kind of see you can enjoy it either way. Is probably now more than back then, but it was downright scary, like, especially the tunnel scene and
Yeah.
seeing Violet blow up into a big blue blueberry was just, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's almost traumatic to watch it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now I'm watching it and it's legitimately funny, and you get more of the morality tale of what it's about. I mean,
Right.
the adults are bad. The adults are enabling these kids. The kids don't listen to authority. I mean,
Uh,
the only quibble I have with this movie is the fact that Charlie and Grandpa Joe don't listen to authority too, but somehow because they can burp, they get out of it. They don't end up in the
that old
dejuicing
trick.
room and the incinerator because they just happen to burp. I mean, they were destined to be cut to ribbons by the ceiling fan.
Yes.
And They don't, and but he ends up still kind of getting out. They get out unscathed from that situation. That's the one problem I had because
Yeah.
they didn't listen to what he said, and they get out of it. But they he.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of tied up in a bow at the end with the
Right.
return of the gobstopper, and
Yeah.
But it's the morality of the Roald Dahl book must be the same way. And I think some of his movies, like I think you see it in Matilda, you see it kind of in Fantastic Mr. Fox, even
Yeah.
where the adults are enabling the kids. The kids are smart enough to kind of figure out adults are bad. And it's funny because in Roald Dahl's biography, he grew up with like really stern. He grew up really poor, just like Charlie Bucket,
Yeah.
and he also grew up with really stern teachers that were he tried to ignore, but they were he was bullied and beaten up by older kids, and
Yeah.
had a lot of authority figures in his life that told him the wrong thing. And as a kid, he had to figure it out for himself what was right and what was wrong. And you can kind of see that going through the mind of Charlie in this movie.
Yeah. That's okay. That's a good take. The first time I saw this, I was probably 9 or 10 years old, I would think. And I remember being like mesmerized by it because of the visuals and who doesn't want to see a world made of candy when you're a kid? And
Yeah.
there were funny things about it, that some of the violence was funny and some of the Oompa Loompas were funny and the songs and all that kind of thing. But again, the social construct at the time was different. They didn't care if you scared kids back then. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's you could respect kids, but not have to coddle them as much. And I think Wilder's attitude towards the kids here is really just it's
Stop.
tantamount to the times.
Stop. Don't.
Stop, don't come back. There's similar themes in like Bad News Bears and things like that, where you could look at kids with contempt.
What she wants is a good kick in the pants.
Or you could look at kids with admiration, but they were always treated as equals, like more so than today.
Yeah.
They were on the same kind of tier, like socially at least, with adults, where they could be admonished and made fun of and chastised, but also rewarded and loved and all that kind of thing. And this was probably captured that dynamic at the time. Now, not so much. I mean, even the 2005 remake, the kids are caricatures; they're not real.
Yeah.
It's the parents are overly characterized too to be so completely crazy. It's a very safe, very Nerf ball approach to the kid dynamic. Then again, watching this movie as a 53-year-old guy, it did bring me right back to being a 9 and 10-year-old kid and remembering what adults were like back then and what was acceptable back then. And back then, if you were heavy, that was wrong. Back then, if you thought too much of yourself, that was wrong. Now you get shamed for those kind of things. But back, it was an interesting dynamic all around. But I think I rate the movie the same as I did then. I still think it's an amazingly original piece. I think the art direction and the music and the acting is phenomenal, and the story is well told, and it's an Aesop's fable essentially, and it's very classic type of storytelling that's done correct and well. And there's a message at this movie, and it's portrayed to you pretty easily, pretty simply. Be good and good things happen.
Yes.
Be bad and these are the consequences, right? So I mean, any movie that can kind of do that standard tenet is pretty good. But I enjoyed this movie, and I laughed at the kids' pain more than I probably should have. But I particularly laughed at like again Wilder's portrayal here, so dismissive and so interested in the peril. I mean, that's funny.
It is. It
again,
is.
could
And
never.
yeah, he redeems himself, once in the final scene there when he's in the
Yeah.
Wonka Vader, and you actually see human emotion from him, and it's just it's genuine after you see what he's already done.
That last scene, without sounding too pretentious, is really magical because it does what so many movies today can't do. It infuses this grounding of reality and complexity, where characters are not binary; they're layered and things like that. And to see his turn and his reveal, and that how much it meant to him to give this factory away to someone like Charlie. That's portrayed here. It's very well done. So, and not at all unnecessary. So. So we talked about unnecessary earlier before. So this movie's been remade essentially a couple times, and we got to thinking, for this week's installment of You Just Made the List, pal. We always find it interesting here at Grumpy Nostalgia when production studios decide to remake a movie, especially one that doesn't need to be remade whatsoever. No one's asking for it, just like this Wonka thing probably was. Is who really wanted a Willy Wonka remake?
No, not me.
Who really wanted a Willy Wonka origin story? Not me. It's unnecessary, we deem it. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk about some other films in that same vein. So Mike, let's go through maybe two or three. Let's talk about some other unnecessary sequels. Let's talk about some other unnecessary remakes.
Oh, yeah, remakes that no one asked for. Yeah. The first one that came to mind for me was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. After The Last Crusade ends, which was the third movie, they're literally riding off into the sunset. You got Indy and his dad, played by Sean Connery, and Denham Elliott, all kind of like, that's the end. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Now let's do a movie, I don't know, 20 years later, and involve the Russians instead of the Nazis, and have, Indiana in a refrigerator during a nuclear explosion. Let's have his soon to be, I guess, is the one who was supposed to take his mantle from him was Shia LaBeouf, and let's have him play a kid named Mutt, and be kind of annoying. But anyway, it was just a very unnecessary sequel. You had Cate Blanchett doing a really bad Russian accent.
Yeah.
And just, and then totally unnecessary. I'm not going to even mention the Dial of Destiny movie, which came out this year. That flopped.
Let's do two.
There's a reason it flopped. There's a whole cadre of people, including us, that would be like, why did you do this? Why? It's for the money.
Yeah.
It still pisses me off that Harrison Ford keeps appearing in these movies that are so unnecessary. Kind of ruined the legacy of the original character to me.
They use the excuse they want to introduce this to a new generation of fans.
I know, but
it's a cop out.
It is. That's why we have DVDs. That's why we have movies that are on streaming services for them to watch. These movies still exist today. You can watch them. Yeah. They hold up really well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my first one. Indiana Jones.
All right, so for my first pick as an unnecessary sequel or remake, I'm going to go with Psycho.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Gus Van Sant decided to do a shot-for-shot remake of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which I thought was in that stratosphere of things you just don't touch. I mean, Psycho is generally regarded as one of the greatest horror films, greatest films ever made. This particular adaptation really brought nothing new to the table. Being a shot-for-shot remake is kind of unnecessary. It did put some elements of voyeurism in it that wasn't really required. Just miscast for starters. Didn't spawn really. But again, when you get into that realm, that upper stratosphere of films of that level, to remake them it's almost sacrilege at that point. Why are you touching these things? So so without much more ado, that's my first pick, Psycho.
What'd you think of Psycho 2 that actually did have Anthony Perkins in it? Did you
very
watch
good.
That?
Very clever.
It's not bad. It was
very
interesting.
Clever, yeah. Had some interesting performances, and the story was logical and sequential, and made
I think but your pick is golden. That is probably in the Hall of Fame of movies that should not have ever been made. I mean, you think of a movie that they actually copied, like you say, shot for shot. I mean, why?
Who's your audience?
It's exactly what I was just saying. You already have this movie made. It was done in a much better level by a
it's like
moderately better director. It's just
like making a Xerox copy with a little less ink.
Good one.
All right, Mike. What's your next pick?
Space Jam 2: A New Legacy. Exactly. I can almost just Xerox what I just said a little bit ago about Indiana Jones. There was no reason for this movie to be made. I know it's for the kids. It's probably, some kids have never heard of Michael Jordan. That's fine. LeBron James is, he's the semi latest flavor, in basketball. So you had to have a new movie with him in it, and they changed the story slightly, but it's still Looney Tune characters and a basketball star teaming up to fight some alien. And I think I don't know. I think this game is against like AI or some kind of computer program.
Well, it's funny
Either
that generation
way.
that doesn't know Michael Jordan certainly doesn't know Looney Tunes.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, what has Daffy Duck been in recently? I mean, come on. And it's just it was I think I don't think it flopped as bad as Dial of Destiny, but it was in the neighborhood of this was a movie that came out I think 2 years ago. So that would be my second pick, Space Jam.
That's a good one, Mike. All right, so my next pick, I'm going to go with. Well, I'm going to start bundling them up there because there are so many, there's so many that deserve to be called out. I'm going to go with just from the ones that have been on our podcast: Total Recall, Point Break, RoboCop, Poltergeist. all those movies we covered have been remade for no reason other than just a cash grab. But I think the biggest one here that maybe not what we didn't cover yet, but the Karate Kid was remade.
Oh yeah,
with Jackie Chan and I think Will Smith's kid.
Oh yeah, not Willow Smith, but the other one. Yeah, the
Jaden.
one that was in After Earth. Jaden. Yeah.
So I didn't watch this, so I could be completely misinformed, but I'm willing to bet I'm not. It was a vanity project for Jaden Smith. Will produced it, and The Karate Kid is such an amazing time capsule of a movie. There's no reason that can't translate to today's culture for some reason, but they decided to put little Jaden in there and Jackie Chan in the Pat Morita role. Again, just garbage.
Yeah.
Why would you remake The Karate Kid? And it's not great cinema, but it's one of those things that has a cultural impact that's such that people know that movie inside and out. They know the dialogue. They can quote the movie. It's why would you touch that? Again, I still don't understand the rationale behind it. So that's my second pick, The Karate Kid with
nice.
Jaden Smith. So,
all
right, Mike, bring it home. Let's pick one more, maybe a bag of honorable mentions that you have.
My honorable mention list would be as long as a gorilla's arm. Honestly, it'd be name one: Highlander 2, Meatballs 2, Caddyshack 2, anything after Jaws.
Yeah,
you just think of all these sequels that were just not necessary. I couldn't really think of a good remake or reimagining one, but there, maybe any of the Disney movies that have been out, like
the live action,
the Aladdin. Let's mention Will Smith himself in Aladdin or The Little Mermaid. It's like the live action ones are just so unnecessary when you have the medium of animation that can portray the story so much better. Anyway,
I think there's finally some pushback on that. I think the last few Disney live action things, people were saying, "Why?"
I think they maybe
the tide is turning. Yeah.
But my third pick is a movie that really flopped at the box office called The Sting 2. And anyone who's seen the original Sting movie knows it's like probably one of the top movies ever made. It was a fantastic movie with Robert Redford and Paul Newman as two con artists who, want to, con one of the biggest con artists, who's a Irish mobster played by Robert Shaw. And it's a fantastic movie. It's probably in the top 5 for me as far as greatest movies. The score, the ragtime score is fantastic. The Chicago setting's amazing. The scenes where they're playing poker on the train, just tense, dramatic. It's just got a little bit of comedy to it. Now, The Sting 2 didn't have any of the returning actors, but they had the same characters, which was kind of weird. They had Jackie Gleason playing the Paul Newman character, and then they had Mac Davis, of all people, playing the Robert Redford character. And it just went over like a lead balloon. It was the same. It was basically a rehash of The Sting, just made about 8 or 9 years later.
It was a TV movie adaptation of
it. Was but just so unnecessary. It just
again.
I don't know.
The Sting, you're in that stratosphere again. Stay out of that cookie jar.
Yeah, stay out of a movie that is already a known classic that it can't be touched. And why even try to do that? Why experiment with something like that? So that would be for me one of the worst. Is The Sting 2.
As our friend Arnold would say, stop it.
Stop it.
All right, my last and final pick. I have some honorable mentions. I want to say any horror movie ever made. after 1980. They've remade them all. Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers and The Fog, and they've remade every movie, every original.
You're right. I forgot about The Fog. Yeah,
they're all garbage, every single one of them. None of them are any good. The originals are always better, and the originals weren't that great in the first place. So why are you remaking?
Did they do a remake of The Thing, or is that still? Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, the Thing wasn't
the Thing. I know
cool
the original
was
Thing was the Arnaz one from the 50s, but then the Kurt Russell one was,
yeah,
I guess what I consider the better of the two. But for me, it's also technically a remake, but it I don't know. Nobody saw the first Thing. It's kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like a lot of people saw the one in the 50s, but the one in the 70s was done so well that people remember what it was and why it was done. But
yeah, they did another one in 2011 that was just
So yeah, they just it's a slippery slope. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the horror genre is notorious for this. It's been shockingly unoriginal for a very, very long time. They just consistent on sequels and remakes. So when you see a good horror movie, like we talked about before, it's like seeing a unicorn. So all right, my final pick is going to be the Pink Panther. Again, we talked about why would you remake Peter Sellers' portrayal as Inspector Clouseau?
Hamburger.
Yeah, and we're talking about Steve Martin here, so I love Steve Martin, but again, it's just one of those things we get into that area where these are iconic things that don't need to be touched, and I don't know if it's arrogance or pompous or whatever to think that they can, improve upon that, or what are they trying to do, Mike? I don't,
it might. Dude, this could be a whole nother podcast. I'm just thinking in my head,
is it hubris? Is it genuine sincerity that they want to make a better product than these iconic films? I don't get it.
Well, I think we just maybe partially touched on what we just were wondering. Like I said, with something like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the second movie was a little better. So same with the Thing, but. Is that just us because it was our generation watching it, or was the one in the 50s a little bit better?
I think the penny dropped. I think that's exactly what it is, and that's why this is a show called Grumpy Nostalgia, because we're angry.
We think our generation's better.
Yeah, they're angry that just like our parents thought their generation was better, et cetera, and so on and so on. So who are we kidding, right?
I know. That's what I guess I couched this earlier by saying whoever watches the Willy Wonka movie that's out now, they probably will. Enjoy it and think of Timothy Chalamet as Wonka. That's their view.
Meanwhile, we're sitting in our caves complaining. So we need to take our back pills and go to bed, Mike.
I know, right? I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, I just.
All right, well, that's
need to do some backstroking there.
Yeah, that's probably as good a place as any to stop, Mike. So let's kind of wrap it up here. So if you like what you heard for some reason, you can follow our show on Instagram. We have a page called Grumpy Nostalgia. We'd be happy to see you on there. You can also send us an email at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. We have a fledgling YouTube channel on YouTube called Grumpy Nostalgia. You can click on that. We've got a couple of videos up, and we got a couple more in the can, getting edited down finally. So we got some good response on that. So that'll be out pretty soon. We want to thank our fans for a very successful 2023. By the time this show airs, it'll be the first week of 2024. We had a good 2023, Mike.
All right.
According to our server, our
metrics, we got some good metrics.
Some good analytics. We had 68% growth in 2023. Nice. Not bad. We reached 13 more countries. That puts our total countries reached, Mike, to 26 countries. We are global.
Danke.
We have people from India listen to our show.
No, wow.
What can you imagine? What is wrong with those people?
What's wrong with you?
Is there anything else to do in Russia, in India? We created 2,000 minutes of content this year, Mike, which is up significantly from the previous year. So, and added 33 shows. So it was a good year. 68% growth is in the top 20 percentile of growth for a podcast. So we're all very happy about that. And that's got everything to do with you, the listening public. So thank you for your support over the years, and we continue to thank you for your ongoing engagement with the show. So, Mike, I think that's got to kind of have to wrap it up. Anything else you want to say before we head out today?
That's Rachmaninoff.
Which actually was Mozart, though, wasn't it?
Yes, I love that one.
Yeah, me too. All right, Mike, don't forget that candy is dandy, the liquor is quicker. See, that's a funny line that... Anyway, whatever. All right, so that's going to wrap it up, guys. So for Mike James, this is Justin, and we will see you again next time.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.